Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse here, and I am back for a channel update video, as well as just chatting a little bit about a couple of events that happened in the past couple of days. And I wanted to give some thoughts on the recently announced and recently released Nintendo Switch expansion pack. So we have a lot to talk about today. Kick back, grab something to drink, and we'll just jump right into everything. So, like I start all of these update videos, thank you to everybody who has been supporting the channel, and thank you to everybody who has stopped by recently. Thank you for your support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We have new content coming out every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Mondays are stream archives from Twitch, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are everything else. Anything from low vision spotlight game videos to PC and iOS spotlight game videos to VR apps and games and VR accessibility, hardware reviews. Everything is in playlists up there, so you can find something that may be of interest to you. And I just did a quick peek. You guys are killing it. Not too long ago, I think I did this on my last update video. I think I said that we just crossed 3,000 subscribers, and we're almost to 330. I think it's 3,026. So, we're moving on up. Maybe we can hit 3,100 by the end of the year. Who knows? But thank you to everybody for that. So, very cool. A lot happening on the channel lately. We have some recent demos that have come out. We've got some early access games. We've got some retro shooters. I'm just looking at some of my recent videos. There's a Twitch stream for a goofy little game I got hooked on earlier this year. Nice little relaxing game, that Island Saver game. My Nintendo Switch OLED review. No, I did not cancel the pre-order. I ended up keeping the pre-order, and having had the system now for a couple of weeks, I have been playing it pretty regularly and often in handheld mode, kicking back on my couch or my recliner, and usually listening to like an audiobook or a podcast or something, playing some Castlevania, Mario Kart, any number of different things. So we got that hardware review, we got my iPhone 13 Pro Max review, and we're going to have a couple of other really cool videos coming up within the next couple of weeks, too. So stay tuned for that. We got lots of games coming, lots of stuff happening. I think this might be a bonus video. And then Saturday's video, I'm going to have a review of kind of a spotlight video for another game, and it's kind of a combination accessibility and spotlight video for another game. So stay tuned for that. Check that out. But we got a couple of really cool things. I've done a few of these Geek Loot Spotlight videos, kind of covering just some nerdy collectibles that I've had, Master Swords and the Ed 209 and a couple other odds and ends here. But it's going to be hard to do anything after this next video, because hopefully within the next couple of days, I'm going to finally have something that is insanely ridiculous and insanely cool. But you guys are going to have to wait a little while longer for that particular video. I'm going to have to check it out first and play with it and whatnot. But stay tuned for something pretty sweet in the next couple of weeks. On top of that, also, hopefully in a couple of days, as I'm recording this, hopefully tomorrow, the arrival date has kind of been fluctuating a little bit the last couple of days, but as I've said in a previous video, I should be getting a new desktop PC, hopefully sometime around this weekend, hopefully tomorrow, Friday, as I'm recording this. I've been talking on the channel that I've been thinking about upgrading my computer, heck, even when Riley was still up here. But I just really wasn't sure. And then with Windows 11 and everything, I'm like, well, we'll wait for that, yada, yada. friend of mine's computer died, and he had to get a new computer. I looked at his, and then I saw a very similar model, a little beefier specs, and I was like, that's really not a bad price for considering everything that's in it. I did a little bit of tweaking, and I should hopefully have it here in the next couple of days. Normally when I have my last few computers have been home built, or I've had a local computer shop just build me a custom PC, because that way I know what's in it. There's not any crapware or bloatware on it. But honestly, with the chip shortages and scalping out there right now, it is just, I mean, I've heard of literally PC builders buying pre-built machines even if they want to build their own, because it's actually cheaper to buy a pre-built and get the video card than it is to buy the high-end video cards. So yeah, we're going to be rolling with that. So if you're watching this ahead of this weekend, probably not going to be a stream this weekend, because I got to save my bandwidth, because I'm going to be downloading a whole bunch of stuff for this new computer, and I may be even in the middle of the process of setting it up. So likely no stream this weekend. But then I should have all kinds of new gaming power, and I should be able to cover some of these newer PC games better. I want to look at Deathloop. I want to look at the Guardians of the Galaxy game, which looks really interesting. Both of them look interesting to me. And a couple of these other games that my current rig might be able to run, but maybe not so well. So I'm really looking forward to playing with that. I'll probably do some kind of a review for the computer eventually, just give my thoughts on that particular brand and model. So stay tuned for that. So we got a couple really cool hardware things, geek video, kind of a collectible video, new computer. Yeah, my wallet is screaming in pain right now. The last month, like I said, it's like a big old Christmas present. I'm getting all kinds of cool toys and stuff, but boy, yeah, the last month has not been kind financially. I've probably spent about $5,000 in the past month, give or take. So we're definitely going to be simmering down for quite a while after this. So that's kind of an update on what to expect. A couple of tech and hardware things. Got a bunch of games. Of course, it is the fall season, so there are indie games and AAA games, although this year there's really not near as many. I'm more interested in a lot of the indie titles, like all of your Battlefield, Call of Duty, that kind of thing. I don't really care all that much. Diablo 2, I wanted to check that out, but I've heard that's sort of a mess, and they didn't include the narration and text-to-speech in the initial update. Theoretically, that's coming later, but again, with all the Activision Blizzard stuff, who knows what's on the roadmap and when. So, won't be checking that out anytime soon. November, there's a lot in October and everything, but November is a little bit dry for stuff I'm interested in. But then we have Halo Infinite in December, so I am actually pretty curious about that. But there's plenty of a backlog, so there's no shortage of things to play. Speaking of things to play, that kind of transitions us into a few things that have happened. I had mentioned the Nintendo Switch earlier, my OLED. I've been playing a lot of that. And as of the 25th of October, we got the new option for the Nintendo Switch Online. You pay some extra money and you get like Animal Crossing stuff if you're into that. You get Genesis games and N64 games. I really wasn't going to sign up for it, but in the end, there's a couple of games I wanted to try, and I thought, since I covered the Switch OLED, I really do kind of want to see what quality their emulation and all these types of things are, and I want to kind of give my accessibility impressions. And I'm glad I did. Because now the Genesis games aren't bad, actually. They're emulated pretty well. I played some Sonic. I played some Streets of Rage 2, got pretty far into that. I played... What other... I played some Strider. I played a good probably 4 or 5 different games on the Genesis, and they seem to run pretty well. N64, however, is a little bit of a different story, and this is honestly what I was more interested in because, I can play. Now, granted, we have the Mario Anniversary Collection with Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, but we have Mario 64, we have Zelda Ocarina of Time, we have, oh God, what else was there? I just went stupid. But there's probably a good 8 or so games out there right now, and there is more coming, including F-Zero X, which is one of my favorite. I loved F-Zero X on the N64. You have Winback. Oh yeah, Mario Kart 64. I played some of that. And, they're charging like an extra, pretty much almost like $30 extra, which is kind of a really big ripoff, especially... I get so frustrated with Nintendo because when they come out with a new game, their quality is generally super high. Like we have all these games that require ginormous day one patches and updates and fixes, and everything's focused on live services and microtransactions and all this other bullshit that I just can't stand about modern gaming. And Nintendo has done a pretty good job of not doing too much of that. But when it comes to their immense back catalog, like, they gotta know, they know that they have this incredible back catalog of, how many systems: Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Advance, N64, GameCube, the red device that shall not be mentioned. But they have so many games. And, especially in the day right now where everyone is doing these old school remasters and collections. Sega's been doing it for years. Namco's been doing it for years. But now we've got Konami releasing a few collections. M2 is killing it. They're making all kinds of they're doing quality revivals, adding extra, not just features and cleaning up the games a little bit, but adding button remapping and special features and, background information on the games for people who are interested in these franchises. So, like, you have people doing a lot of these remasters, and then you have Nintendo who is like, well, we're just going to do the bare minimum required in order to release a few of our games. Yeah, we'll drip feed a couple of them out here and there. And once we've done a couple of the big tier games, we're just going to release like these like D tier games of like, okay, it's neat to have some of these out there, but really, guys, you release a game or two every couple of months, few months, and then it's like some like weird knockoff platformer or something, or what was that one they always used to release on all the virtual consoles? Urban Champion or something. God, that game was terrible. But they kept putting that one out there. And when it comes to the N64, like, I didn't notice it too much. I only played for a very little bit, like basically the first, I got the sword and the shield and Ocarina of Time, and I was just going to go into the first dungeon, but I've heard I guess there's a lot of lag in that. Like, the graphics are rendered differently. And the worst part of the N64 stuff, unless you buy their expensive N64 controller, playing this with Joy-Cons or the Pro Controller, in a lot of cases feels awkward, because remember how weird that N64 controller was. I mean, it worked great for their games that they needed for the system, but it's weird. This 3-pronged monstrosity. And, I had said, even when this was announced, I'm like, win back. I remember playing that back in the day. I honest to God, tried to play that, and the controls were so bad and unintuitive. They were just mapped really bizarrely. Like it went the way that the controls were mapped, it was just like against every modern instinct that I would have of what, like, taking cover, reloading, shooting. It was just bizarre, and I died almost instantly. I tried a few times, and it was rough. But you cannot remap the controls. Or even if Nintendo would have, like, okay, we account for that. Let's put some sort of, yes, I know they're N64 games, but if you're not playing with an N64 controller, kind of trying to remap some sanity into each game so that, like, the default control scheme doesn't feel completely unintuitive and clunky and horrible. Because some games, they feel rough. So, and with the way that Nintendo supported their, previous, NES and Super NES, they really haven't done many software updates. Again, they're trickling out releases, so who knows how much support this is going to have. Are they going to offer any sort of remappable controls? Are they going to maybe do some control schemes for some of these games that don't play well with a Pro Controller or Joy-Cons? Probably not. They're just like, well, people will buy it. People will put it out there. And yes, I know this, I'm not, the irony isn't lost on me that I'm complaining and, I bought it myself. But I really didn't buy it so much for myself because I could have waited. But with me covering the Switch and everything, I don't get free codes very often. Like every once in a while I will. But if I want to cover something largely for the channel, I pay for it myself. And, I figured, well, we got this new Switch. We got this new kind of platform online extension here. I would like to cover the accessibility of it, see how it does. It's a really mixed bag, but I'm honestly a little bit disappointed, especially with the way that the N64 stuff is handled, because I was genuinely looking forward. Ocarina of Time on the go, sure. On a little bit bigger screen. They had that DS release, but that was a lot smaller screen. Playing this on an OLED Switch would be great, but honestly, it looks really muddy and just not really that good. I'm hoping F-Zero will play halfway decently. What I noticed when playing Mario Kart 64, I got through the first cup okay, but once the tracks started becoming just remotely more complicated, I don't know if there's input lag or if the like dead zone of the analog stick is way different, or it just felt that loose. But man, the steering in Mario Kart 64 on the Switch, and I don't have my old N64 hooked up so I can't compare, but it feels so loose. Like I'm constantly oversteering or understeering. Like it just does not, I fired up Mario Kart 8 and that just felt so much tighter. Obviously it's a much, much newer game, but like I didn't expect, like I played you have no idea how much Mario Kart 64 my friends and I played in the dorms back in the day. So I loved and played a lot of Mario Kart 64. But I don't know, man. Like I'm curious to see what other people think of this port, and if the analog stick just feels as loose and squirrely as I think it does. I don't know. So yeah, kind of disappointed in that. I will say if they're going to release any future games beyond what they've announced so far, there's a hidden little gem that I would love it if it came out. Tetrasphere. I was just thinking about that when I was thinking about N64 games and they announced this whole expansion pack. And I was jonesing about a year ago to play Tetrisphere. And it's really hard to explain, but it's kind of, it's got your Tetris elements, but it's on a sphere and you're trying to get to the core of it. It took some while to get used to. When I started playing it, I really didn't care for it, but then I kind of just clicked with me and I fell super hard for it and just played the crap out of it when I was living in my first apartment with a friend of mine. So Tetrisphere, God, if they would bring that out, that could be good. So those are my thoughts on the Nintendo expansion pack. Unless you really, really absolutely have to have these N64 games on the Switch, I would say definitely hold off. Wait for them to at the very least add new games, but hopefully even address some of these emulation issues or lack of control customization issues. I mean, God, people who have mobility impairments and really need this customization are going to be pissed because there's literally no control customization at all in that stuff. So there you go. And then Sony had their State of Play yesterday. It was only about 20 minutes long. I'm not going to cover every game here, but I'll just kind of give my rough, thoughts of it. This was all focused on third-party games, which is not a bad thing. So there wasn't any real big surprises or anything like that. Well, actually, there sort of was for me, but they were all pretty much games we've either known about or thought we knew about, that kind of a thing, that have been in development for a while. We had some fighting games, some kind of action-y stuff. The one surprise that I was kind of intrigued about is this Bug Snacks sequel. And it's this some kind of island where the Bug Snacks they were kind of lost and but they're giant. So you have these giant versions of these Bug Snacks and they've got a few new ones. And of course they had to lead with the old Bunger. Bunger? I love the Bunger. And the way it talks is just, it cracks me up every time. It's like never not funny. I would love to have a Bunger plushie. That would just be pretty funny. Especially if it had if it talked, if it had little sound effects, you'd just say, Bunger. Yes, the Bunger cracks me up. So looking forward to seeing what that's going to be like. We had some King of Fighters stuff, I believe it was. It looked kind of neat, but I'm absolutely terrible at those games. Like I said, I'm trying to even remember. Oh, we had that new kart racing game, Kart Riders something or other. At first I thought it was going to be, what was that? There was a PlayStation 3 and a Vita series for a short while. It wasn't Kart Riders, but it was kind of a Mario Kart style kart racer, and it had a track editor and everything. I never did get around to playing it, but I always kind of wanted to. But hey, if Sony can have a decent kart racer, I don't really know that any of the characters are going to be all that memorable. That's the thing that Mario Kart has. It has this huge roster of characters from the Mario and Nintendo franchises. We've had even Link. I was playing Mario Kart 8 this earlier today for a few minutes, and I was playing as Link. But so they got this new kart racer. There's this game it's like this adventure type of game, but it's about this band. It's kind of this episodic game about this band. Again, like I said, I don't remember the names of it, but it looks interesting, but nothing that I'm like eagerly jumping out, and really wanting to play. And then they ended it with this kind of neat art style, but really weird kind of game. It seemed kind of like a action adventure kind of a thing. I don't quite understand what the gameplay loop is going to be. But there really wasn't, like I said, there really wasn't anything super memorable. And I probably should have looked up the titles of these games before recording this video, and I thought about it, but I'm like, nah, I'm just going to give my overall thoughts because I was just overwhelmed. Overall, meh. I'm glad these games got attention, especially it's so easy for these smaller titles to be overlooked. So I'm glad they got their chance. And there are some that I will keep an eye on. But there, again, nothing really super stand out there. Brings us to today's events. So we had the Oculus keynote, led by Mr. Zuckerberg, of course. And then later this afternoon, I watched John Carmack's speech, because he usually does a session for Oculus Connect or Facebook Connect, or as they're now going to be known, Meta. Yes, at the end of the keynote, based on all the things that they were talking about, they're like, yeah. And I don't know if they're going to keep, like, the Facebook app is going to remain Facebook. I would guess it might. But no, the company itself is going to be called Meta. Meta. And it's basically because of this whole concept of the metaverse. Think Ready Player One, think Snow Crash, think about all these virtual environments, the holodeck. So usually in these Oculus keynotes, they go through what they're going to be doing for the next year. They maybe announce a product or two, and then they have a guy come on and talk about, just speculate what might be the future of the next 5-10 years, that kind of a thing. But this year, they really kind of doubled down on this whole, like, no, we need to reshift the way we think about things. And we really want to consider this whole metaverse concept. So instead of looking at these flat screens on our computers and phones and such, and they've tinkered with this sort of thing a little bit in the past and showed little teaser things of these, but we have basically you have all these virtual environments, and they want you to be, whether you're using augmented or virtual reality, mixed reality, they want you to really be immersed in this, metaverse. Like if you're sitting there with some friends and you're wanting to watch a movie together, instead of just looking at, Zoom and you're looking at a bunch of portraits or little webcam images, you're in a virtual, room. Maybe it's a movie theater. Maybe it's your a virtual living room. Maybe you're in a other virtual space like a spaceship or underwater or whatever. And Oculus Home has some of that right now, on a single player level. But they're really focused on making that within the next year going to be more multi-user kind of a deal. And they focused on, excuse me, I apologize, been a busy day. They really talked about, focusing on social connection, whether it be for just, quality conversation with people, hanging out, doing social things like entertaining things like gaming, going to concerts virtually together, watching movies, playing games, those types of things. And then education or work, and again, like, I love all the ideas of this. Like, when they present it, yeah, it sounds really fascinating. I'm all about this because I love, as I've talked about in a lot of my VR videos, I love the potential that virtual reality has, not just in games, but non-gaming things. Honestly, some of my favorite experiences have been educational or exploration based. You know, getting to see what Rome was like way back in the day, or going for a tour of space, the Titanic, um, Apollo 11. Those are still some of my really just more memorable VR experiences that I tell people about regularly. And, a few years ago, they were talking about, oh, we're going to have this Oculus education branch, and we're going to release all these like virtual documentaries and yada yada. I was pretty excited about that, but I don't know that anything really came of it all that much. And so while I was really sort of into everything that they were saying this year, what they want the next 5, 10 years to be, I'm like, that's great. But we've sort of heard this before, except for now we're hearing it in more detail, so maybe they're taking it more seriously. But, that's kind of what you got my hopes up for a couple of years ago, and nothing really came from it too much. So, I don't know. Um, but, they talked about, they did some, and a lot of these were your typical like prototype scenario, and these staged conversations of like, hey, how are you doing, hey, it's just this weird kind of natural but not so natural, sort of stilted conversation that just sounds a little bit weird. But they would have these living room scenarios, or you would have these meetings, or you would have people, like one person was at a concert and then someone could join them virtually with their avatar. And like I said, all of it sounds interesting. I would be down to participate in a lot of these types of things. I love augmented and virtual reality. I think it's pretty cool. If I had an accessible way to just have, instead of having two monitors, if I wanted to have multiple monitors and I was sitting in my headset and I could just have this space around me like I'm using virtual desktop, and I could be in whatever environment I want to be. I've got my social media on one monitor, I got my work on another one, I've got music playing in the background, whatever. It could be kind of cool. Um, and the frustrating thing about the presentation was, like I said, it was really interesting overall. Just seeing the different prototypes, seeing the different potential scenarios. We're at least, they kept saying this too, where this isn't going to be a thing you're going to get in the next 1 to 2 years. But they're like, hey, we want to think of all these things as we're building this stuff. And within the next 5 to 10 years, we'd love to see this kind of become common. Especially now, they mentioned, of course, the pandemic, everybody working from home, and a lot of people are continuing to work from home to be able to choose to work from home or remotely, myself included. Yay, love it. But kind of have that sense of presence with other people while still being away from each other, being able to collaborate and see each other in the same room or whatever virtually. So who knows? They came so close to it, but they really didn't mention accessibility at all. And I was not surprised that they didn't. I did a tweet yesterday, kind of saying as much, that I didn't think they would. At the end of the presentation, they came close. They were talking about, hey, we want, these are some core values that we want to really be putting into this metaverse that we're creating, and we want it to be open. We don't want to be necessarily in control of like, oh, this is just Facebook or this is Meta, and we are going to run this whole metaverse thing and everything has to go through us. He did take a couple shots at Apple, with the way that Apple's asking for permissions for ad tracking and things, and Facebook lost out on a lot of money about that, because you can say, no, don't track me when I open an app, and then Facebook or whoever can't get at that data. And they're like, well, they have these high app store, these high prices for developers, your 30%. I mean, he took a couple shots at Apple, which I kind of laughed at a little. But, this being Facebook, you kind of had to, you still like, okay, you're going to make fun of them, but look at all the evil you guys have been doing over the past several years. So I wouldn't throw stones too far there, buddy. But that's the weird thing, because on one hand, a lot of this stuff sounds really interesting and right up my alley. But then I think, God, this is Facebook, though. Like, it's Facebook, you know? But they were talking about, like, these core values. Like, we want this thing to be open. So think about it like the internet is now. Maybe you have, like, a group of people who, like the W3C, who make web standards. You have these standards groups, but then you have all these different programming languages, and anyone can make, you can code something in HTML. You can do interactive stuff with Perl or PHP or C+, or you can do JavaScript, or I don't know, whatever programming language you want to add on for apps and things. So it's really open, and that's kind of what they're hoping to do theoretically, is say, hey, here's some basic framework. We can get this thing started, and then everyone can kind of build on top of it. You have HTML for your web, and then everyone just sort of builds on to the core of HTML and rolls with it from there, which in theory could be good. And then they talked about inclusivity. They wanted to be inclusive. And I thought, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere here. And I've seen this not just with Oculus, but this is one, like, I've seen people tweet about it on Twitter, especially disability Twitter. People talk about, people always talk about inclusion and diversity and all of these things. And they're always referring to, not that these aren't important, because they absolutely are, but they're talking about, race and gender and, sexual orientation, all these things. But any guesses to see what's never mentioned? Starts with a D. Of course, disability. I thought maybe, if anything, that's where they're going to mention, okay, we're talking about inclusivity. If they could even if they don't say disability, could they talk about ability? Depending on, no matter what the person's ability, we want people to use our products. They really didn't go that far. They showed, we want to keep, we want to make sure that we account for skin tones and hairstyles and race and all these other things, but disability or range of abilities just really wasn't mentioned at all. And so many other companies have started even mentioning these in their keynotes. We've had Microsoft do it. Apple's done it. I think Google's done it. So, I think we've even had Sony, I think, even mention some accessibility things. So I don't know. I mean, there's potential there's potential, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because, they're saying a lot of really nice things, but it's so easy to get sucked into the hype. And then, like I said, part A, it's Facebook, and then B, okay, you didn't mention anything about disability or accommodation or, like making something usable and accessible, universal design. But then I did watch John Carmack's speech or session later this afternoon, and he didn't really say disability either, but he mentioned he kind of look at things a different way, and not really kind of through the skeptical side or the cautious side, but he made some really good points. And I think his session was actually really interesting. It's really, really nerdy because that's John Carmack, and he could just talk about anything. The guy's so dang smart. But he was talking about, what he would like to see, and it's like, people are looking at, we want to make this future, we have this vision of the future, and we're going to try to shoehorn our technology to meet this future. And instead, he's like, well, maybe you should look at the product that you want to build. And then, because let's say you're planning for something 5 years, 10 years out. Well, look at how much things have changed over the last 10 years. I couldn't even predicted how some things have changed in the last decade. And I'm sure smarter people than I could kind of be more accurate, but some of the things I wouldn't have even thought of. And, he's like, well, we have all these gazillions of screens, and all of our media over the last how many years has been really focused on providing information and entertainment and connection over these flat screens. How can we make the advantages and unique aspects of augmented and virtual reality? How can we take this flat screen content and kind of make it better over time, and just gradually, eventually we'll get to the metaverse, because he ultimately believes in that too. He likes the idea, but taking it kind of more one step at a time. Let's develop some actual products that people can use, instead of just kind of wishing into thin air and hoping we can get there in a few years. We kind of have to iterate on it and get there. And then the one part that I really liked, he was talking about a little bit of, usability, not necessarily accessibility features, but like, he mentions, there's, you have something so simple like the Oculus Go, where you just put the thing on and you could passively watch some content. You had a little remote that could do very simple games. But when it came to like the Gear VR, which was more capable, you plugged your Samsung phone into the Gear VR, the Go still did better because there was a lower barrier to entry. When I turn on the Oculus Go, I could put the headset on and be in the interface and just point at what I want and go. The extra step of, okay, I got to get my phone, got to cram it in the Oculus, the Gear VR headset, make sure everything is working, and so there's like this 2-minute, setup process or whatever. And even with the Oculus Quest, he's like, oh, how many times do you turn on the Quest? And, depending on the time of day and the lighting and where you are in the room, it's supposed to remember, but how often do you have to redraw your play area and then verify a couple other questions? It doesn't take super long to do, but he goes, but could you imagine if every time you wanted to do something quick on your phone, if you had to go through like a weird setup process and verification process every time you wanted to like check a message on your phone or something, that it would take 2 minutes? It would drive people bananas. It would drive people insane. So, thinking about, I like where he's going. I like where he's thinking about, let's get these barriers out of the way and actually make it work. And I did tweet earlier too. I said, hey, I'm really enjoying this Oculus keynote, or this John Carmack session. And, I kind of mentioned that I'm like, the other thing that he mentioned is, we, VR isn't quite as sticky as it should be. People are fascinated with it when they first get it. And then depending on how many experiences are released for it over time, and how many frustrations people have, the headsets, they just kind of get put away in the closet, and then they don't really get used, because there's every time you want, if I go to a TV, I can turn it on, boom, I'm watching TV. If I want to listen to some music, I turn something on and I'm listening to music. But, you always have this sort of initial few minute setup process for VR. And, he said, you have these, what did he call them? VR. Oh, I forget the word that he used. But essentially, you get these people that abandon VR despite already having the hardware. We can't even get them to stay engaged with it. And I used his wording in my tweets. I said, hey, I would actually consider myself one of these people, or I am considering myself more of this type of person over the last 6 months to a year, because I got the Oculus Rift in 15, 16. I was really, really into it, and I really tried to advocate. I really was hoping for some accessibility features. I was doing presentations and videos and whatever. And then, okay, I'll give them another shot. I'll buy a Quest. I want to see what the difference is between a PC and a standalone headset. So I bought the first Quest. Again, really liked it at first. But over time, they broke the Oculus phone app accessibility. It used to work great with VoiceOver. Now it works like hot garbage for the most part. And then on top of that, all the other VR headset challenges that I have. Like, I've kind of become disenchanted with virtual reality. Do I still love it? Absolutely. I think it's incredible when it works. But I have so many things that I want to do in my life that I don't want to spend half of my day, if I want to play VR, I don't want to have to keep jumping through so damn many hoops just to be able to even, maybe not even 100% use a product. Just be able to use some of the features, play some of the game. I can't read any of the social stuff. I can't use any of the browser stuffs because I can't see it. So I can't do friends. I can't really do multiplayer with friends. I can't join VR social things because a lot of the interfaces for those to connect to rooms aren't accessible. So I've kind of just gotten tired of it. And like I said, I'm getting a new computer, hopefully in the next day or 3. I recently like 2 days ago, I unhooked my Oculus Rift from my current PC, knowing that I'd be getting my new computer, and I did pack it away. I put the headset away, I unhooked the sensors, and unless there's something really, really compelling or some accessibility project I really need to work on, I don't know that I'm going to hook my Quest up or my Rift up to my new computer. I might try hooking my Quest up because it's only one cable and I don't have to worry about the sensors and stuff. But even then, I'm just tired of having to struggle through basic interfaces in order to get to the fun part or the educational part or both. So, go back and look at some of my VR content. Like, when it works, when it's really easy to get into, I absolutely love it. It's incredible. It's fantastic. I was, and I still am. Like, I would love to be able to easily just jump in and even passively watch, 360 video content. But a lot of these video apps, I can't see them. I have to just go into a random video and see what it is. I can't read the interface and say, oh, I would like to watch that clip or that video. So it is really frustrating. I know we have XR access. I've been a part of that now for over a year. We have the XR Access, XR Association. There's work being done. We're getting closer to theoretical prototypes. But, I'm not going to buy any new VR hardware until I know it has at least some base level of accessibility. I've used VR. I know what it is. I have headsets, so if I need to, I can play around a little bit. I can show other people VR. But I'm not going to continue supporting these VR devices until I can play them, or use them. If a really, really cool game comes out, yeah, I'd really like to play it, but if all else fails, I don't know, maybe I can find somebody who is playing it on YouTube and at least watch it that way. Because I'm tired of, struggling so much. Like, I mean, Nintendo, their lack of accessibility annoys me too. But at least that's a flat screen, and with the vision I have, I can generally still do okay playing the Switch. Whereas the VR headsets, they even have, additional barriers that flat screen. They have advantages, but they have barriers that flat screen content doesn't have. So, I mean, both of the sessions, both of the Oculus or Meta sessions were pretty interesting. Like I said, the whole vibe, the whole sort of future that Mr. Zuckerberg and company are envisioning, I am fascinated with it because I really would love to be in some of these social experiences. Like, my friend and I, we watch movies and we've found that Discord works pretty well for that. But yeah, if we could kind of hang out in like the same virtual space and, I don't know, play a game, like, I don't know, we were playing a board game while we're watching a movie or something in our headsets, that could be really cool. Or just kicking back on a virtual couch or, having that extra presence. I don't know, that could be something cool to that. And then I really like a lot of what John Carmack said. He was really enthused about it, but he kind of wanted to look at things a little bit of a different way and acknowledge some of these shortcomings and look at things differently, which I really did appreciate. Whew. So yeah, I know this has been another long video, but I kind of warned you at the beginning. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of things happening on the channel. Like I said, a lot of games coming out or that I need to cover and record. We got a new video for a game coming out here on Saturday. Monday being the 1st of October, or November, I should say. Good God, yeah, November already. So, the year's going by so fast. It'll be the last part of the Veil Twitch stream will be coming out, because I said the first Monday you guys are going to get the Veil, and it was 3 parts, so we're going to get part 3 of the Veil for you. Definitely go support the Veil on Xbox or PC. Falling Squirrels, shout out to them. Like I said, new computer, more games I can play. Hey, I can play Minecraft RTX. I can play Quake RTX, Quake 2 RTX. Oh yeah, speaking of accessible shooters, Mr. Alan D1, shout out to him because he just released, I retweeted his video yesterday. He came out with Map Pack 3 for the Toby accessibility mod. So that has 6 levels in it, I guess, based on episode 3 of Doom. And so we have, 6? I don't remember how many were there. 7 in the first one? 7 or 8, I don't remember. But we should have like 18 to 20 blind playable Doom levels through the Toby accessibility mod. So go check out that tweet, and I linked to it, and he'll have in his video description, he's got an updated file with all of the Doom files and content that you need pre-configured. So check those out. I will definitely be covering the 3rd episode through a spotlight or something, and maybe we'll stream it one of these days too. Maybe I'll try episode 2 or 3 blindfolded. Tee-hee. We'll see how good that goes. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff happening, and like I said, I'm kind of teasing them, but with the new computer and another new little toy that I'm getting here soon, some cool stuff, and all the end of the year things happening. Usually do my end of year coverage, that kind of a thing, so who knows what that'll be this year. I am doing some judging for the accessibility category for the Game Awards this year, so there's a few games that I really want to get around to playing to see if they make my cut for the top list of games that I would recommend, or nominate for this year. So, with that, I think that does cover pretty much everything. Like I said, it's been a really busy, month. I didn't even really talk about the Microsoft and Google event, I don't think. The Pixel 6 event, we got 2 new Pixels, a regular size and a ginormous size. The Pixel 6s, we got Android 12. We have iOS 15.1, which has fixed some voiceover issues. We've got new versions of JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion out there now. They are officially out there. I updated on my work laptop. So all those are out there. Again, this is the time of year for stuff happening. So anyway, we'll wrap up the video here. This might be the final video I record, at least as of now, on my current rig. Next time I do a video, it might be... I already have the video for Saturday recorded, so that doesn't count. But the next video I actually end up recording may be on my new rig. So I'm still going to keep this guy around because he has been very, very good. Boy, I've done a lot of stuff with this machine. I still love this machine, so we'll definitely keep it in use for some stuff. But anyway, we'll wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like it if you did. Stay tuned for lots of other cool stuff. You can find me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. If you want, you can also, I keep forgetting to plug this every once in a while, you can also find me in recent episodes of the Blind Abilities or Tech Abilities podcasts. So check those out if you wish as well. Anyway, we'll wrap it up here. And until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.